Hey everyone, welcome back to Money with Mission. Today we have Nate Reineke with us. Nate is a certified financial planner, and we're going to be talking about who Nate is a certified financial planner who specializes in helping physicians get our, what together for retirement. They actually take into account happiness along the way to that place of retirement. So we're going to have a good time here. Let me tell you a little bit more about him. He serves as a primary advisor, student loan specialist, and college planning specialist at Physician Family Financial Advisors. He also hosts their podcast of the same name. So another podcast for you to listen to. With a Bachelor of Science in Economics from the University of Oregon, Nate has seamlessly blended his academic foundation with a diverse business background. After leaving corporate with over a decade of experience, he followed his passion for helping physicians get out of debt and went and on with life. Nate, as the son of a financial advisor, always hoped to follow in his father's footsteps. And after over a decade in the industry, now he can say that his dream has come true. Nate is born and raised in Eugene, Oregon, and married his wife, Brittany, in 2015. And together they are navigating the joys of raising two young boys. When not immersed in family life, Nate dedicates his time to fitness, home improvement, budgeting, and the podcast. Welcome to the show.
Be the change you want to see. Make a difference by giving your money a purpose, a mission to do good. Welcome to Money with Mission, where we show you how to create passive income so that you have options for how to work and how to live your life while leaving a legacy of positive social impact.
Nate, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking time out from your day.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I know you have a lot of great ideas about being financially independent, so I'm happy to talk about it.
Okay, guys, I said Nate's name wrong in the intro, and I got lazy and didn't go back and fix it. It is Reineke, not
Reineke.
like I said it. Nate, and Nate is a financial advisor with Physician Family Financial Advisors. And let's back up, because I saw on you've been in corporate. Obviously you weren't born, your dad was a financial planner, so you weren't born with some of this stuff as you were growing up, but talk about your money story and how you got to where you are today, wanting to help other people improve their money life.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'll take you back to when I was a child. I promise I won't take the whole episode. I'll skip some years. But when I was really young, like before my dad was a financial advisor, he actually laid block for a living.
Okay.
So construction, and the way he tells it seemed like good money when coming right out of high school. Didn't go to college, good money right out of high school. But he told me this story about he was standing on top of a building that they were working on. And in Oregon, it rains a lot. So it's pouring rain. And he thought, you know what? This sucks. Like this job, this hard work, manual labor is hard. And he's looked down at the top of the building and he saw this guy in a suit running inside, protecting his $100 haircut with a newspaper.
Okay.
And he runs inside and he goes, I should be doing something like that. And he didn't know what that was. But he started thinking about it and he decided just to go back to school. He went to school, got his economics degree, and finding how he could make it in the business world, he landed on investments and financial planning. But he worked at a bank as an older beginner, right?
Okay.
So he went back to school when I was maybe 8 or 9 or something like that. So I got to see the rise in my dad's career. And it was interesting because he had some real world experience. So something maybe not everyone sees is their parent be really passionate about what they're doing. So he was passionate because he knew the alternative was laying block, and that wasn't all that great. I talked to him about investing. I talked to him about budgeting. I talked to him about everything that is personal finance for about as long as I can remember.
Okay.
And a lot of that had to do with just business. When he didn't own his own business, but when you have a book of business, it feels like you do. And I talked about it constantly with him. When I was a kid, I remember having a coloring book that most kids would be coloring in, and I was writing with crayons a business plan on how I was going to sell tulips door to door to my neighbors.
Okay.
So I was always super interested in it. And basically, I went to school for economics, planning to be a financial advisor, got out, got a job at a big bank. And at that time, during college, I was also really into Dave Ramsey.
Okay.
Okay. So Dave Ramsey, good for some, not for others. But
Mhm.
at the time, I was super interested in Dave Ramsey. And I got to the bank and it just was not what I was expecting. It's not what I signed up for. I got there and you basically sold anything you possibly could to make money.
Okay.
And there's people at the bank trying to explain to me the business. And essentially, it came down to if you work with money, the transfer of money from account to account is just equals dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Just you make a ton of money. And that's
Mm-hmm.
all it was about. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people understand personal finance, things like getting out of debt originally is what I was really passionate about, and investing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually left that dream and went and worked some big corporate gig, which wasn't all that bad, but it was nothing to do with what I really wanted to do in life and helping people with their personal finances. So I gave up on it a little bit and thought, this isn't out there. It's not available. And then I found Physician Family, where I work now, and it is as conflict of interest free as you can get. So obviously, there's always conflicts of interest in business where you just want to keep your clients, but that's where it stops. And I got to come in here, and the way that my boss now pitched it to me was physicians are struggling to deal with their student loans. And I know that you have worked really hard on your own student loans and all that. Why don't you come here and figure this out? I came in, I started working with people on their physicians on their student loans, and it was great. But at the same time, I had this mindset of work really hard, budget really hard, pay down your debt really fast. And it seemed to be that mindset. I shared that with many physicians. Like I wasn't teaching them anything. They
Okay.
knew they needed to be out of debt. They knew they needed to work really hard. In fact, that's how they got where they were. And so quickly that transitioned into my own kind of epiphanies through working with these folks that hard work and getting out of debt should not dominate your life. It should not be everything when it comes to personal finance. In fact, these people we're speaking with make plenty of money. And a lot of the people that I thought I'd be speaking with when I first started this journey when I was 10 years old, they really needed to figure out the other side of the equation. Like, how do I make more versus how do I pay down my debt? Because doctors make plenty.
Mhm.
And so I found that constantly, which I wasn't expecting, that our conversations are dominated by balance between achieving your goals, which includes debt, balance between saving for retirement, sending your children to a good school, and enjoying some life now. And what I found was most physicians, the way that they grew up, the parents, which many of the physicians I serve, that our parents grew up in the same time period, their parents are bad with money, and their mindset was adopted that they have now was adopted purely from their parents. Just a middle class mindset, which is not a bad thing, but it puts you in this position where you feel like I have to work extremely hard for every dollar, no matter what it takes, even at the expense of my family, maybe. And so I have found that working with physicians to find that balance has been much more meaningful for them and honestly meaningful for me. So now we're helping physicians find that balance all the time and answer the question, when is it enough? How much do I really need to make? And you can only do that with a plan. So we write plans and we help you achieve those goals so that you get on to living life.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm going to back up a little bit because we've used a couple of terms, I think, differently, and I don't know if they're interchangeable.
Sure.
And that's financial planner and financial advisor. Are those the same thing?
It's an interesting question. Actually, no one's ever asked me. And I feel like I'm the only one who really understands this, or people in the industry are the only ones who understand this. Financial advisor, financial planner are interchangeable in many circles, but not in my eyes.
Okay.
A financial advisor is a kind of a catch-all term. It could be straight up like investment advisor. It could be an honest to God financial planner who actually writes plans for you. And it could be disguised as a salesperson to get you to buy the thing that financial planner wants you to buy. So when I say financial planner, someone who actually understands your goals, puts them down on paper, and gives you a roadmap to how to achieve those goals. And then that speaks to what you can do right now with your money. So imagine I told you everything you needed to save and you earned more than that. It would be permission to spend some of your money. And that doesn't happen very often. That permission doesn't happen very often with other financial advisors because their fee is tied to how much you invest with them.
Mhm.
So it's very hard to get that advice or to get that insight.
Mhm.
So for me, I would consider myself a financial planner, but everyone hears that and they don't know if it's different than financial advisors. So we call ourselves financial advisors.
Is that a good question to ask a person you're about to go and work with? Are you an advisor or a planner? And just even if they say I'm both, to hear that answer seems like it could give you some insight into that person and how they
Yeah.
actually think.
I think a better question, because these are salespeople, they're very
Mhm.
good at answering these questions. A more direct question would be something like, how do you charge? If I invested $100,000 with you, how much would I pay you this year?
Okay.
And if you get anything but a very direct answer, you should probably run away.
Okay.
Another question would be, do I actually get a plan? Will you ask me about my goals and tell me exactly how to get there? The answer should probably be yes, especially if you're looking to have some balance. Someone can manage your investments and do a good job without a plan, and you may even end up in a similar place to where if you invested with someone like me. But the difference will be how you feel about it. You won't know where you're going. You won't know what you're aiming for. If you don't know what you're aiming for, it's hard to know when you've gotten there or if you're even on track.
Yes. And you might know where you're working to go, but if your planner doesn't know where you're working to go, you guys are on different pages altogether.
Totally.
And you got to be on the same road or you're not going to get to the same place.
Yeah.
So, or there's going to be a lot of conflict the whole time.
Yeah. If you call your financial advisor, investment person, and you have an extra 100 grand, you're like, what do I do with it? And they don't and they don't have a plan in front of them. They're just going to tell you to invest it. And honestly, you'll probably have more money at the end of your life if you do that. So it's
Mhm.
not the end of the world. But what about what about all your other short-term goals? You need to accomplish those too. And if you don't have someone who understands whether or not you're on track at any given moment,
Mhm.
you'll just have to opt for investing. And sometimes
And
that's
to
good,
me, then
sometimes
that
it's
other
not.
question, if I have this $100,000, like what are the tax implications of what I'm gonna thinking about
Hmm.
doing with that? So
Exactly.
you need to get your tax planner in on the whole conversation too. That's why I very much advocate having a team so that
Hmm.
the team can help you see what's going to be the best way to manage your money and
Yep.
helps you manage your life so that manage your money so you can manage your life the way you want it to be. Bottom line.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
and speaking of taxes, another kind of conflict of interest is tough. A lot of physicians that are in practice, they have a lot of tax advantaged ways to invest. And I know you have ways to basically eliminate your tax bill through real estate and all that. But
Mhm.
a lot of physicians will obviously put money in their 401k and they'll put money in a defined benefit plan. But what about after that? After that, it gets worse, at least objectively, for where you can put your money. And so if you have 100 grand and there's nowhere to put it, you're going to put it in a taxable account unless you want to do some strategic investing in some other form of investment.
Yeah.
And so you have to ask yourself the question, if I'm on track and there's not some really good place to put it, can I spend this money instead? Or can I invest in something different?
Mhm.
And again, the only way a lot of these money managers make money is if you put it in a taxable account. It's IRAs and taxable accounts because everything else is at work. It's really good to know from your advisor how they're getting paid and for yourself to know which accounts are most beneficial or which types of investments are most beneficial so you can make a good decision for the now and the future. Now, if you really don't have a good place to spend it, of course you would invest it. Of
Yeah.
course. But that doesn't usually happen. Someone comes to me with $100,000, we usually end up investing half of it. There's life comes up and you want to spend some of your money.
Life coming up. That's a
Yeah.
whole thing that a lot of people never talk about. Just
No.
put as much as you can into all your stuff. And then if something happens, because we were talking off camera about
Hmm.
and off mic about physician burnout and physicians leaving medicine and
Yeah.
what are the options if we've invested, we can cut back,
Mhm.
catch our breath a little bit and decide really, can I continue this or do I need to step away and do something completely different?
Mhm.
I just feel like if we had our money managed better and knew what was happening, had some income coming in outside of medicine, it wasn't just trading time for dollars all the time, the burnout rate and the quit rate, let's put it that way, maybe not the burnout, but the quit rate might be a lot less than it already is.
You're touching on something that's like really important to me. I never had any idea about physician burnout until I was in this world. And now that I see how intense it is for many physicians, I'm a little nervous that we're going to lose doctors. We need doctors. And
Yeah, yeah.
so, gosh, I talk to them every single day, and they really have a couple options because I'm going to be blunt. Physicians are not great at valuing their time.
Yes.
They have gone their whole career work, and a lot of times that has been instilled by their parents into them.
Mhm.
And that's great, but at some point you have to rest. And the question is, when do I get to rest? Well, some things that you're talking about, alternative investments, that could be an option for a physician that doesn't want to do that, but they like medicine. They're still burning out, even though
Yes.
they love medicine.
Yeah.
And that is just sad to me. That's like wrong. That's
Mhm.
just plain wrong. So the question would be in my world, like, how do we fight against that? And I see it all the time, good and bad. I see people who believe that they must work as if they were just starting out and they're in their 50s. They must work 100 hours a week because that is physician culture.
Mhm.
And then I see the alternative where they say that to me and I said, just try this. If your practice won't let you, go out there and see if another practice will. And one benefit of physicians burning out is they're desperately needed. So I see physicians move to a practice that will allow them to work less.
Yeah.
And that I have seen that move mountains, like
Yeah.
working 0.75 FTE allows them to catch their breath and decide, was I working too much or do I actually want to do something different?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Just a breather for a second.
It's so hard to figure out if somebody outside of medicine saying that to you or somebody in medicine saying, "Why don't you take a break?" If you can't take a full break, see if your practice will let you work less. And if
Hmm.
your practice won't let you work less, to me, that's a valuing of you kind of problem for
Yes.
them. And it's time for you to do something different altogether.
Hmm.
We have to figure out how to value our time and our lives
Yeah.
because I think that's the other part we're missing. We're divorcing, suicide, all the icky stuff of life is happening to physicians, and we're just talking about physicians. I know it's happening in other industries
Yeah.
too. We're talking about physicians here at a rate that's really scary. And while AI is coming up and AI is going to be able to do a lot, AI
Yeah.
is not going to be able to be your doctor full time and treat you like a human being. It'll treat you
Mhm.
like a disease process, but not like a human being. And I don't know, maybe I'm biased on this, but I like
Mhm.
to be treated like a human being when I go to the doctor and not just a disease process.
Yeah. I think that's most people's thoughts. And these things are scary, these kind of revolutionary ideas, but us humans tend to figure it out. I hear you. I've seen suicides with our clients and we serve a couple hundred physicians. So that is scary just to see a couple. And as far as from the outside looking in, I actually think it's been a valuable experience, at least for the people I'm working with, to hear me say that, not because I know better, but because from the outside looking in, I'm seeing their culture kind of chew them up and spit them out,
Mhm.
and the physician culture. And what I've experienced is someone who's willing to try is usually able to make a good decision about whether or not they should work or not. I just spoke with an OB-GYN in Connecticut, and they were trying to decide if they should move their family and stop working or what else to do because she's burning out. And I said,
Mhm.
hold on, before you move your family across the country because you're burning out, why don't you just try working half time? Like it's always an option to
Yeah.
completely change, but like
Yeah.
before we make, but they're so entrenched in this work that they're
Yes.
doing. It seems like the nuclear option is the only option.
Yes. Yes.
And when they try it, it's usually it works. Your option is to have me half time or to not have me
Don't
at
have
all.
any
Usually they'll take the half time.
and having the guts, the wherewithal to come to your practice administrator, your boss, and say that is huge. And when you do, you just find out. I think women have a harder time with that, but knowing that you're needed. You are necessary. If you walk away altogether, because that's always have that there is okay. You can go practice somewhere else. You can.
In a second,
It
easily.
and to not have to uproot your whole family, uproot
Mhm.
your everything, and to be able to stay in your place if you can function there is always going to be the best option.
Mhm.
And again, if they don't value you well enough for that, then it's time to go anyway.
Exactly. And from the outside looking in, I'm going to tell all your listeners, they do value you. And they might not be able to, they might not want to say that because they want all of you, but they don't get all of you.
Mhm.
That's not how this is going to go. And this sometimes sounds a little bit strange coming out of my mouth, but so forgive me. But I have, at least in my experience, when I'm talking to women physicians specifically, and women in general, they are so loyal to
Yeah.
their job, like almost too loyal. And I love that about them in day-to-day life. But your job is not who you are. And being a physician it's part of most physicians, male and female, it's part of their identity. And so they feel like they're losing a piece of their identity to leave, and they feel like they're losing a piece of their identity if they just aren't full time.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to every human being than work.
Yep.
And you have to make money. You have to make great money to have a great life. It's an expensive country we live in. But a physician, story after story, I'll hear they make $400,000 a year. And they're basically asking me, do you think I can retire off if I only make 300? I promise you, you can retire making $300,000 a year.
And if we manage your tax burden, your tax liability, really, you can work less than you're working and still have $300,000 a year.
Very true.
It's amazing what you can live well on
Mm-hmm.
when you just get everything managed. You work a lot with people's student debt,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't even talked about this, so I don't know where that's going to go. But how do physicians, let's say you're just starting out, just coming out with 6-figure student debt?
Mm-hmm.
What's your recommendation to them? How do you get that scariness? Because that's the golden handcuffs, really, is I've got this debt.
Yes.
Now I've got to keep working to pay this off.
Yeah.
How do you advise them?
It is one of those things. Debt is, I mean, it is tough. No matter physician or not, debt feels like you're chained to something. You're chained to the person you're paying. You're chained to a job. You can't take as many risks if you have debt. That is one tough thing. Even when you're investing, some people will ask about taking out debt to invest. Sometimes people do it successfully, but it just, at the end of the day, it feels like you have this obligation because you do.
It's a risk.
It's a risk.
You got to
It's just
understand what you're doing.
It's
sure.
another form of risk. And
Yes.
you took a risk when you took out these student loans. And that's not what everyone tells you, because they're saying, you're going to work till your 60s and you're going to be a physician, you're going to make a ton of money, but then you feel stuck. And
Not a good feeling.
no, it is not.
It's not a good.
And I went through that in my family at a smaller scale, but also with a much smaller income. And there's 2 ways to do this for physicians. There's really 2 ways. And the first one is public service loan forgiveness, but that does tie you to a specific kind of job, and probably a job that pays less, slightly less, than any other job. And so public service loan forgiveness, you can find out a ton about this online. There's people now that have built businesses off of loan forgiveness, and you can pay them, I think, $600 for a review of your student loans and a plan for your student loans for public service loan forgiveness. So
I'm going to
if you're-
say, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to that you might make less too. I've got some that I know that are making average physician salary. You have to stay there for a while, and you
Yeah.
may not want to live there, but you can make a life in
Oh.
some of these places, making plenty of money and get your debt forgiven and move on about your life.
That is very true. Very true. I just spoke with someone about that. They got half their loans gone because they worked in an area that needed doctors.
Mhm.
So very true. And there are ways out. And if you are happy being a physician, I think that's a good way to go. Now, if you're someone who's, I don't want to work in the public sector, or I don't want to be a physician, or whatever it is, you only have one way out, and that is the old-fashioned way of paying off your debt. But the thing is, while physicians make a lot, they still look at this number as if they're the average Joe.
Yeah.
And so you come out of school, you got a couple $100,000 in student loans. I've seen much worse. I've seen 500.
Yeah.
It's insane. So you come out of medical school with all this debt. just know that it's like the average worker, they might come out of school with $30,000 in loans and they might make $60,000. That's similar to a physician as far as ratios go. So you can do this. You can pay it off. My recommendation is very non-financial. It is to stop worrying so much about it
Yeah.
and to come up with a plan. The way you get rid of worry with money is generally to have a plan. Yeah. Have a plan.
So good. So okay, we can say that again.
Mm-hmm.
The way you stop worrying about money is to have a plan and work your plan.
Yes.
And if your goals change, you change your plan.
That's
and having somebody to bounce that off of, hey, I decided instead of working until I'm 60, I want to work until I'm 50. How do I need to manage these things to do that?
Yeah.
And that having a plan is just, okay, here's the plan. It's like going to surgery. If you're going into a surgery and you don't know what you're doing, you don't have an idea of anything, you're nervous and terrified.
Of course.
Having a plan is, okay, we're going to do this, that. If that happens, that, if that happens, that, and if this happens, that, I'm calling this person. If it all goes to shit, I'm calling this person. Having a plan lets you go into that surgery.
That's
Same
very
thing
true.
with your money. It is not hard.
It really isn't. It is not intellectually difficult. It is emotionally difficult.
It's emotionally. Thank you.
And how do you get over those emotions? You have a plan and you put it into action. And so I want to talk about the plan for student loans because I am a recovering Dave Ramsey addict. Okay. So Dave Ramsey is, you are a moron if you do anything but pay off your loans. Look, I'm here to say Dave Ramsey, I still appreciate him. He is speaking to the middle class.
I was going to say, that's a middle class mindset.
It's a middle class thing. And look, it works. If you're the middle class, you probably shouldn't have a bunch of car loans and all that. And you know what? If you're a physician, you shouldn't have car loans. Pay for your car in cash. Let's get over that. But for student loans, when you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans and you're finally making some money at age 35, you don't have a lot of time compared to the average person to get out of debt and start investing. And my suggestion would be to make a plan with your student loans that runs right alongside your other plans, your plans to pay for college, your plans to retire. So what I have found is that an aggressive, okay, aggressive but still maintainable plan would be like 5 or 7 years to pay off your student loans. If you have big, crazy goals, maybe you need to make that a lot faster. But to someone I'm in private practice, I'm building up my practice, I can't put every dollar I have towards student loans and get these tax savings with these other investments. I would say you're missing out on some very good opportunities in your early years. Early for physicians is still in their mid-30s. So take it a little bit slower. Don't just disregard your debt altogether. You need a plan. But what I found is when I'm talking to people, they're not disregarding this.
Right.
They're terrified of it.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to come in here and kick the door down and be like, you got to pay off your student loans. Believe me, physicians are all terrified of their student loans.
Yeah.
So it was a totally different conversation than I was expecting. I'm less scared as somebody who hates debt. I'm less scared of their debt than they are.
Yes. And it is truly many are not living a life because they're spending every dime to pay off that student loan debt, not starting their investing to get to the next point. So it just becomes, that's what you're saying, is that fear of, oh my God, I have all this debt. It's never going to go away. It's going to go away.
Yeah, it will. If you have a 5 to 7 year plan, you'll be totally fine. Now, if you let these drag on forever, then it'll be a pain in the end, but get them out of your life with time and stop worrying about it. If you set an automatic payment to get these done in 7 years, they'll be done. Yeah. And talk about tax savings. I know you have lots of ideas about how to save on taxes, but even just the most simple idea, sticking money in an IRA, right? Doing a backdoor Roth IRA. If you're paying a bunch of taxes on this money and you're not putting it in your 401k or something to defer the taxes, you don't get this year back. You can't go back into 2024 and put money in an IRA for 2024 because you're too busy paying off your student loans. You have a huge your back is against the wall as a physician with taxes. You,
Yeah.
It's so much money in taxes. And if you don't take every year and make the most of it, yeah, you'll be done with your student loans, but then you'll be lost without a paddle because you didn't prepare for all these years for your other goals.
Yeah. You threw out a term real fast, backdoor.
Oh yeah.
And
Backdoor Roth
everybody
IRA.
might not know what that is.
Sure. I'll tell you about it.
Sounds illegal.
Yeah, when you're saving the kind of like low-hanging fruit, if you're a working physician and then would be put money in your account at work, get the match and all that. But then once you're done with that, because it's not all that much money, you're not going to defer your entire income with a 401k. In fact, you're going to defer about 6% of it or something. Then what do you do next? If you're interested in investing in the stocks and bonds, then you would put that money in an IRA next. So it'd be like HSA, account at work, and then IRAs. The problem with physicians is they make too much money. So they can't put the money in a traditional IRA and defer the money. So they can put the money in a traditional IRA. They just can't get a tax break for doing it.
Okay.
And so then they absolutely make too much money to contribute it to a Roth IRA. So what you do, and this has been blessed by the IRS, this is okay to do. It's just a strategy. There's no account called backdoor Roth. It's a backdoor Roth strategy.
Okay.
So you put the money in a traditional IRA, do not get the tax break because you make too much. Don't write that off on your taxes because you'll get in trouble.
So that's,
and then
you put that in with after-tax dollars. So
after-tax
if you got W-2, they already took the taxes out. Now you can take it and put it into the IRA. Okay.
That's right. Yep. You put it into that IRA and then you convert those after-tax dollars into a Roth. Now, a couple years ago during COVID times, they almost took this away. So this is a strategy that may not be around forever, but it allows you to get your money into a Roth, which grows tax-free. So you already paid the taxes, the income taxes on it, and then the growth of the account is completely tax-free when you retire.
So you have to do the IRA first and then convert that to the Roth.
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds strange because why wouldn't I just contribute directly to a Roth? But this is a loophole. I mean, it is literally a loophole that the IRS knows all about, and they have said that it's okay. But there was some rumblings that it would go away a couple years ago. So
I remember that.
Get your money in now.
Is a Roth something that you can self-direct, or does that have to be managed by a fiduciary? How's that?
You absolutely, everything I'm talking about, you can do on your own. Okay. Everything. You can invest, obviously, at work on your own. You can invest into an IRA, and the technology is so good now that as long as you have a straightforward situation, which many people don't, but as long as you have a straightforward IRA, let's say you've never set anything up, you're just brand new right out of the box. You can go in Vanguard, or we use Betterment. There's like a button you can click to convert it to a Roth IRA. It's not that difficult. Now, there's some small things that we wouldn't necessarily need to get into the weeds about, but you might be a little bit confused about. But right out of the box, you put money in the traditional IRA, you convert it over to a Roth, and it's done. If you have some other retirement accounts from old work, like if you had a big IRA, let's say a big balance, let's say you left work and your greedy money manager told you to move that money into a rollover IRA. Okay. So you took your 401k and put it in an IRA. That's pre-tax money.
Right.
And they want that money in that IRA so they can charge off of it. And now your backdoor Roth is blocked. You can't do that without converting some of your pre-tax dollars. And you and I both know we don't want to convert it because then we're going to have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
So you have to get around some of those roadblocks. But
is there sometimes, and this is where your tax planner, so we're talking about you can do things on your own. I hardly ever recommend doing things on your own.
Yeah.
Because there's always little nuances that you miss that can help you tax-wise, income-wise, all the things you don't know. That's the thing. There's so many things we don't know that having a conversation with somebody can help. I forgot where I was going with that. Roth IRA, the tax benefit. Can there be a time when it actually might be beneficial for you to you pay those taxes now because you have the opportunity to really grow that money somewhere else? So that's where I was going. It's a matter of talking to a tax advisor, a tax planner. Does this make sense at all?
Even a tax advisor would probably struggle with that a little bit. Now, they're going to have the answer for how much it would cost you. But wrapping that into your financial plan, honestly, you should just be talking with a CFP, a certified financial planner. So they're
Yeah.
going to be able to talk. Maybe your tax advisor would tell you what's the tax liability here.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to two things. You can do the math. You can say, is this going to be worth paying the taxes now so that I can get all this tax-free growth later? But then it comes down to your appetite for actually paying that bill.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
if you have a really large conversion to do, you convert it over to Roth and there's 6 figures in the account, you're going to have to pay $30,000. Well, do you have $30,000? You have to
there's a lot
have
of
the money.
considerations.
Yes. But a better way, and the reason you would want your certified financial planner involved is, let's roll this over into your current 401k and not do this all together so that you don't pay the taxes. If it's possible, you can do that. So I really appreciate you trying to formulate a money team for people, because we see that all the time. People are good at, it's really difficult to be the master at many different things. And the financial services industry has an expert for everything. We really try to specialize in the account management, the investments, but also the planning. But on top of that, having a good tax advisor, having a good insurance person, like all that's really important. You don't want one person selling you everything.
And having somebody who can help navigate it, because if you're my financial planner person, me, where I'm trying to go, and now we have an insurance person over here and my accountant, maybe a different wealth manager over here, and everybody's talking and looking out for my best benefit and teaching me so that I can get further and further along financially.
That's right.
It just makes perfect sense to me. And I know all those things can cost and add up, but if it saves you or makes you more money down the road, it is well worth it.
I totally agree. That reminds me of something, and I'm going to, this is off script. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. I was listening to some of your episodes and I saw that you talk about physicians basically that should probably get a divorce or leave their relationship that they're in. What do you think about physicians marrying other physicians? Do you think that's a good idea? Or when you see physicians who are married to non-physicians, does that tend to blow up in their face?
I don't know. And I'm going to go back to what you said is I don't advocate getting a divorce.
Yeah.
I want every woman to have the financial ability to walk away from any job or relationship that's not in her best interest.
There you go.
Okay. So clear that up.
Right.
I think that it's all personality driven, whether it's another physician, bricklayer, whoever your person you match with is who you're going to match with. Does a person who makes less money than you, significantly less money with you, does that relationship have different struggles and different conversations than a couple that are equally financially, they bring in the same amount of money or roughly the same amount of money? Yeah, it is all relationship driven in how you talk to each other. Or there's all these kinds of conversations. I'm always looking to figure out how to make my life better, my relationships better. That's what counselors are for. That's what psychologists are for. You go and talk to these people to help you have better conversations around everything. I like teams for every part of my life. I don't work to figure so many things out on myself because I don't know what I don't know.
Of course. Yeah, my spouse is a therapist, so I'm with you. No, the reason that I ask that though is a lot of physicians that come to us, it seems like I told you, you can do all of this on your own. I don't necessarily advocate for it, but some people have the chops to do it.
Yeah.
At least the investing that I'm talking about. But what I see that they come to us for is they really need someone there in case something happens to them. And what I'm noticing is that usually the physician is taking on this burden on their own because they make the money, and the other person who may not make money exits the money conversation. And so the reason it's important to me to have a team is that you need to have people that can wrap around their arms around your spouse if they're not the financial spouse. And if you got some slick sales guy, that they're not going to wrap their arms around anyone. They just want their hands on the money. But if you can get teachers on your side and they're teaching you, but at the same time you have confidence that everything happens, that you'll be there for them. But I was curious about that though, because we see divorce all the time. And it's also sad, but it seems like this money stuff gets in the way. And
I'm so much an advocate, and I really appreciate what you just said about having people on your team that are actually teaching and having your spouse, if they're the stay-at-home mom, dad, whatever, or they're make significantly less money and you're the financial person, you have to bring them in on these conversations so that they can know. Obviously, you married because you love them, and if something happens to you or when you die, if they're left with your children, they got to know what's going on. So I'm very much an advocate of everybody playing in the game and knowing, even if one person's in charge, you have to know you just have to know what's going on and have a clue. They need to know who Nate Reineke is so that if something happens to you can call Nate, this happened. Okay. All right. This is what the plan is. This is how we laid it out. Remember? And now you have somewhere to go.
Yeah, let me actually give a little tip about that. So work with tons of non-financial spouses. And I think what I hear often is they're just not really interested in this. And you know what? That's the beautiful thing. If all we did was talk about money at my dinner table, it'd be a very boring life. And that's what I would talk about. So my spouse is non-financial. But the way that you bring them in, these non-financial people, is to talk about the goals. Get them dreaming about the goals with you, because believe me, the non-financial spouse doesn't want you working that hard if it's not their goal. If it's not their goal, why would they want their husband or wife working 100 hours a week? It just doesn't make any sense. So bring them in on that. And a lot of times they will ground you, and they will, if they have input on the goal setting, this isn't the tactical stuff. Leave the tactical stuff to the financial person and your team.
Yeah.
But bring the non-financial spouse into the goal setting, and they will help you shape a healthy goal that allows you to save enough, but also puts things in perspective of what you should be doing now with your family. Because physicians, they can afford both.
Yeah.
They can have anything they want. They just can't have everything they want
at the same time.
And having that third party that isn't all that interested in money, it is a blessing to have my wife, because sometimes like, I want to do this, and she's like, why?
Just
and I'm
have the why question.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just get those people in there so they can ask you why, so you're not just in the rainforest trying to find your way. It's important. And then they will know why you're saving, and it will allow you to accomplish your goals. And they will also set expectations about what are we going to do with our kids while they're young?
Yeah.
Not just save work.
And if you're the work person and you're never home, they can help you see that this is what you're saying. This isn't healthy for you, number one. And this is not what I want. I want to see you. I want to have a relationship with you. Our kids definitely want to have a relationship with you. Let's figure out how we can do our work for that. And you and Nate can do it. I just let me know that you're going to be home. That's what I want to know.
Exactly.
And where things are going. That makes perfect sense to me. And it takes some of the pressure off. At least who's helping, and they know your goal as a family. And that can help. That could keep people together.
Gosh.
Imagine that.
If they just had 3 business cards of the financial people they have to call if anything happened, and they knew those people were taking care of you. You didn't know exactly how much money was going where and exactly what's happening, but you knew who was going to call, and you knew they would take care of you. That keeps people awake at night. This is why a lot of people reach out for help in the first place, is what if something happens to me, the person that's working so much, or the person that's paying attention to the money.
So my dad is 88 years old, and he is not sleeping, worrying about what's going to happen to his wife if something happens to him. Dad, we have to just walk through it. What's going to happen? Well, he can talk it through, but he still's not sleeping at night thinking about it. Okay, now you can go to sleep, because what's going to happen?
Exactly. That's all they need. And that has let some physicians rest, to be honest. Just call me. What do you got to do? You have to call me. Or what do you have to do? Call your person, and they will take care of you. And by the way, if you didn't hire a teacher, they're not going to take care of you.
No. Okay. This has been amazing. So good. How do people reach you? I know you have a podcast. Your podcast is called...
Yeah, it's a very clever name. Physician Family Financial Advisors Podcast. But you go to physicianfamily.com/podcast, you can listen to that. Another thing, if you listen, that's a good starter. But if you want to just talk, like this doesn't have to be a sales thing. If you just want to have a question, sometimes we take these questions and we put them on the podcast. You can go to our site and just schedule a call. You click get started, take a short quiz, and you have an hour of Ben, who's the owner of the firm. You have an hour of his time, and just talk through any questions you have.
That's amazing. I know you guys, most people are driving or doing something other than sitting there with a pen and writing down all this stuff. It'll be in the show notes, just like always. What else do we need to cover, Nate? What did we forget?
Man, I think we touched on it. Maybe we didn't go as deep on some things as I would love to, but I really, it's just a point of encouragement that your time is really valuable, and it's valuable at work, but it's also valuable at home. So having a plan and asking that why question. If you want to buy real estate, why do you want to do it? If you want to save on taxes, why? Like, why? What are you spending your time on? And that is the most important resource you have, is your time. You'll make plenty of money, and knowing exactly where it's going to go is going to free you up to spend more time in much more important places than talking to money managers.
And work all the time. It's time. Again, time is that thing you can never get back. Money comes and money comes. Time goes and it's gone.
Gone.
That was really good. Yeah. I think more people thinking about how they're spending their time and not just trading the time for dollars, but having a plan for how they're going to use their money. That why question of just the why. And some people say go 7 layers deep on your why.
Yes.
You get to the real reason you're doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Totally
and then
agree.
You can go. Now we're ready to go because I know exactly why I'm doing this.
By the way, just to put a cherry on top of this team thing, if your team's not asking you why, it might be time to look elsewhere.
We're done. If they're not getting on your nerves asking you
why,
it's time to find somebody who's going to help you get there.
That's right.
So, Nate, thank you so much. All of Nate's contact information is going to be in the show notes. Give him a call, have a conversation, understand where you can go. You can live your life now and save for retirement. It is 100% possible, and we all need to be doing it because we need our doctors around.
That's right.
All right. Thank you. See you guys next week.
You've been listening to Money with Mission. There are projects happening right now where you can have a great financial return while positively affecting the lives of others. To learn more about our opportunities, go to moneywithmission.com.